Hey, y'all need a break. Listen to these stories from r/entitled people. Entitled nurse almost kills me, gets karma. I, 21 female, am a dialysis patient who is handicapped, wheelchair bound. I was going to turn 18 when dialysis began. I can't have a fistula, so I have a permacath. Now I have a tendency that my permacath gets blocked in 3 to 4 months. Now my permacath was blocked. The doctor suggested an anticoagulant injection for the blockage. The duration was of 14 or 15 hours because it was pushed through a machine very slowly. The thing with anticoagulant is that it can start internal bleeding or some more dangerous stuff which I don't remember now. I was in ICU because of risks. I'm a patient who can't be without my mom. She takes care of my everything as I'm on wheelchair. The nurse in ICU are particularly worse. They don't let relatives come inside. But my doctor had given permission for my parents. Now I was in ICU and beside me was an elder man with lots of pipes. He was awake, just couldn't speak. My mom was coming many times because I needed help. One particular nurse was very entitled. She used to think she is owner of ICU. She gets angry when my mom comes. Now injection was over, and the ICU doctor and entitled nurse, EN, was checking flow. I was lying down. The flow was perfect. I was delusional because of other meds. The thing is that EN left the permacath open and went along with the doctor. As I was delusional, I sat to drink water. As soon as I sat, blood started pouring out. I don't know how much blood came out, but I got dizzy, oxygen dropped and I fainted. The man who was inside bed started hitting his hand on his bed and started making noise. The EN came running, she saw, and started closing permacath. The damage was done. Whole bed, my clothes, all things were filled with blood. Same moment my mom came. The conversation went as follows. Mom, what happened? EN, she started bleeding. Mom, how? EN, you should explain to her to not sit anytime she wants. Mom, what? She has back problems, she can't lie straight and she's delusional. EN, first of all go out, you are not allowed here. Mom, I have permission. EN, not my permission, get out this moment. My mom goes out. EN starts cleaning before my doctor came. She forcefully removed me from my bed and cleaned everything. Later when I gained consciousness, my parents explained what happened. Next day I got discharged, and when I reached home, first thing I complained about her in hospital's website. She was called in and was fired. People came to know that there were many patients with her complaint and who suffered because of her carelessness. But she always used to clean everything before doctors came. And the ICU doctors used to support her. At least in this story there's a happy ending. Entitled nurse dropped the ball. This is my first time posting and I'm not sure this is the best category. I'm also posting from my cell phone, so bear with me. I will start off by mentioning that our daughter, 10 months, we'll call her DD, was born last year, 10 weeks early. This required a long, but successful 52-day NICU stay. I say this because we have worked with dozens of nurses and have never had an issue. I'd like to think we're pretty easygoing and just try to advocate for our daughter the best we can. Last Monday, DD was throwing up and spiked a fever of 103. We brought her to the ER where they transferred her to inpatient care. The plan was to keep up with Tylenol/ibuprofen to keep her temp down. We discussed possibly getting an NG tube to help keep her hydrated. Tuesday comes and she's coughing so hard she vomits and gets dehydrated, so she gets the NG tube and we start her on tube feeds that night. We meet with DD's doctors on Wednesday morning along with entitled nurse, EN, and come up with a plan for the day. We all agree that she needs to keep on a Tylenol/ibuprofen schedule to keep her fever at bay so she doesn't get further dehydrated, and we will try feeding her formula or Pedialyte via bottle as long as she isn't exerting too much energy, and if she seems tired we'll go back to the tube feeding. Pretty clear cut, right? Wrong. DD coughs so hard that she throws up every minimal amount of feed she takes. I'm talking 0.5 to 2 ounces max. I can tell DD is getting dehydrated, she isn't making many/any dirty diapers, she's becoming lethargic. EN insists we continue bottle feeding and won't allow the tube feed. During this time she also told me to let her know if she feels warm, and she'll administer Tylenol, instead of sticking to the regimen we agreed upon earlier. I don't think much of it because I'm not a nurse and maybe she is right after all. I start questioning my gut. Please note that during this time DD isn't connected to any monitors, aka no heart rate, oxygen level, etc. In the meantime, I start logging everything. Every feed she takes, every time she vomits, what her temp is, when she gets medicine, etc. I have this gut feeling something is off. My daughter is not right. I knew she was dehydrated, tired and definitely getting sicker. Her cough is getting much more severe. I express all of these concerns and I am not being listened to. At all. A code white is called at some point during the day when another nurse dropped in to check on DD. They also take a urine sample, pretty hard to get when you're incredibly dehydrated, and she also has a UTI on top of whatever it is she's fighting. The night nurse, an actual angel of a human being, we'll call him NN, comes in and immediately notices DD is off. They hook her up to monitors, finally, and her oxygen is low, temp is spiked, heart rate is very high. A slew of doctors come in to assess. They all agree to put her on oxygen, continue tube feedings and to monitor her stats. He gets her back on tube meals and administers Tylenol to subside her fever. She gets good meals through the night. We feel confident that she's starting to catch up. She finally has a pee diaper after 18+ hours. Thursday morning shift change and EN is back. We do rounds with the doctors and discuss our game plan for the day. We will continue with tube feeds until the afternoon to let DD catch up, continue Tylenol, keep her on oxygen until noon, and if she spiked a fever we will get a chest x-ray done to see what's going on. Rounds finish and EN comes in and immediately disconnects her oxygen and stops her tube feeds. I ask why. She says she won't have these at home so she can't rely on them. Mind you, there has been zero discussion of DD going home and it's literally 8 AM, not noon. We have no idea what's wrong with her at this point and she continues to get worse. But I, naively, think that the doctor must have changed his plan and I don't push back anymore. DD develops a worse cough and starts grunting non-stop. I am not exaggerating when I tell you it is non-stop. She is clearly having a hard time keeping up and is having trouble breathing and settling down. I voice my concerns to EN. Her response: she comes in and shuts the monitors off and stops monitoring DD stats. I tell her I'd prefer if she left them on. They weren't causing any harm. She says, "Not my call," and walks out. I am irate at this point. I can't even speak to her, let alone look at her anytime she comes in. My poor daughter is inconsolable. EN comes in very infrequently, because why would she? It's not like she sees any issues on her monitor because she shut them off. My gut tells me something is wrong again. I take DD's temp, she's up to 102.4. EN just gives her Tylenol and tells me to stop taking her temp. We ask about the x-ray and EN says, we're holding off. Not what we agreed to with the doctor this morning, but okay. Shift change happens, thank God. We get NN back. He calls the doctor in again. DD starts coughing so hard, again, she vomits on doctor, her breathing is labored. She's clearly breathing from her belly and having a very hard time. She's lethargic. NN and doctor are very upset that she is in this condition after we filled them in on the day. We get her back on the monitor, she's barely at 84% oxygen, heart rate is high, fever is high, you get it. Same song and dance, but we get her back on track sort of. We requested for that nurse to be removed from our service. Friday morning. DD's condition isn't getting better at all. Her body is trying to play catch up, but it's incredibly hard for her when she's been working, unnecessarily, overtime for so long. There's really only so much they could do overnight before EN derailed during the day. They call a code white again. This time the PICU team observes her and she gets transferred to the ICU, where she still is today. She is being monitored around the clock by this incredible staff, thankfully. She is finally starting to do better, not in the clear quite yet, but we're getting there. She is on high-flow oxygen and exclusively feeding through the tube in order to let her little body heal and not have to work so hard. It is such a shame when you get one bad nurse. Nurses are supposed to be your liaison between you and the doctor. They are supposed to work with you, not against you. I can't help but think EN was just incredibly negligent or just really effing bad and careless at her job. Either way, why do you work in pediatrics when you so clearly lack empathy among other things? Our daughter has spent a total of 58 days in the hospital in the last 10 months. That's 116 nurses, give or take. We have never run into a problem like this. Am I the a-hole? Or do you think it is reasonable for us to file a complaint against her? I'd hate for any other family to endure what we had those 3 days of having her as our nurse. Karen wants to be treated in hospital before a 3-day-old baby. I gave birth to my daughter on Tuesday, then were released Thursday. On Thursday we saw our pediatrician after being released from the hospital. Turns out my daughter's bilirubin, jaundice levels, were high-ish. She was born at 37 weeks due to me having preeclampsia, so she's technically early to the doctors, so they're being precocious in checking her levels don't get into a dangerous level. Since Thursday we've had to go to the pediatrician/hospital on the weekend, since doctors' offices are closed, to get her blood drawn to keep checking. On Saturday we had a doctor's order prescription to have her blood drawn at the lab but had to be taken and wait in the ER. There were 3 to 4 people sitting in the ER when we arrived. Get checked in, my fiancé and I sit, waiting to be registered. The ER desk worker recognized us from the other day, I guess from when I was in the hospital giving birth, and asked about us and my daughter. How she is, how many days she is, why she's here, etc. I'd also like to point out my daughter is extremely quiet for a newborn as well, literally never made a peep in the waiting room. The registration woman comes out with that rolling cart not even 2 minutes later, walks over to us and begins the process when old lady Karen pipes up, who was on the other side of the woman. I've been waiting 2 hours, check me in first. 1. That has to be completely false due to how quickly the woman came out to us and how dead the ER currently was. 2. She literally cut the woman off as she's asking us questions, which is rude regardless. Don't get me wrong, I can understand it being annoying someone getting attention before you when you were there first, but there are nicer and politer ways of going about it. The registration woman gave the woman a look, then to me sympathetically. My daughter wasn't fussy or anything, so I had no problem waiting, gave her a small nod as if to say, I understand. Then the woman began checking in Karen. Only Karen didn't speak to the woman, only shoved her paperwork into the woman's hand and sat quietly again. Once the registration woman was done, I think, just confirming certain things due to her not needing anything from Karen, checked us in, thanked both my party and the woman, to which of course my fiancé and I thanked her back out of politeness. Karen glared over at the worker and us. After about 15 to 20 minutes, Karen told, not asked, told a worker to tell the ER receptionist she's been waiting 2 hours and to call the lab technicians down again. The ER receptionist gets the message from the passing worker, gives Karen a look and proceeds to call/page the lab again while making a slightly annoyed sound. After a moment the receptionist turned to my fiancé and I, apologizing to us, saying the technician would be down in a moment, and that on Saturdays they only have one blood technician. A few minutes later the very lovely technician came down and immediately came to us, helping us gather our stuff out of kindness. The receptionist made some sort of comment about Karen is also getting a lab done, to which the tech made an kind of sound. The feeling I got was the receptionist told the tech on the phone about Karen causing issues and that an infant was waiting. Well, good, you can follow us. My fiancé and I took an extra second to get the car seat picked up, diaper bag, etc. so Karen had a moment to stand with the tech who was complimenting us on our daughter, to which Karen said nicely but slightly smug, "Yeah, what a cute baby." We took a short walk to the lab area, Karen speed walking past us, talking to the tech about how she doesn't even understand why she's here, she could be doing other things on a Saturday, she's been waiting 2 hours, etc., while the tech is nicely smiling and agreeing, apologizing she's the only blood technician on the weekends. We approach the room, to which the tech turns, smiles smugly and tells Karen, "Ma'am, you can have a seat right here. Y'all can come right inside." Karen, what? "Yes ma'am, the seat's right here. We'll be done in just a minute." Karen huffed, giving my again 4-day-old baby a look, as if it's her fault Karen was a complete and utter pain in the butt, making the receptionist and tech want to make her life even harder. Again, my daughter hasn't made a sound and was perfectly fine. Karen easily could have gone before us and both of us were here for blood to be drawn. But I guess Karen had to wait even longer due to her sucky attitude towards staff. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments.